What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel, and in this video I'm going to talk about different psychedelic drugs and what do they do and what their purpose is. So I believe in natural medicines and actually did work at a private pharmacy before, but then after the pharmacy experience I actually had the opportunity to work in a psychedelic dispensary, and essentially I learned all about magic, the occult, and I became a master wizard and a master alchemist. But essentially I learned about psychedelics there. And essentially what they are is essentially natural tools to heal emotionally. But actually they break the veil between this reality and the spiritual realm. So you're not being affected by the spiritual realm. You're literally in the spiritual realm when you do those things. So I'm going to, in this video, explain the staircase of what these different psychedelics and what they do. Like I'll start at psilocybin mushrooms, then I'll go to LSD, and I'll go to MDMA, ketamine, peyote, and DMT and ayahuasca at the end. But first I'm going to talk about quickly the pharmacy experience. So essentially I was working at a pharmacy. It was a private pharmacy in Canada. And essentially this pharmacy was like, the owner, he was a cool guy, but I felt he was one of those people who just didn't give a shit about anything. Just money was the most important thing. And essentially, we were a private pharmacy shipping medication to the States. We weren't really helping any incoming patients. I think they had like 8 patients when I started, but eventually they got rid of all of them, or they passed them on to other pharmacies because they were just packaging. The focus was packaging drugs and sending them to the States, because in the States the medication is so crazy expensive. So essentially, what I noticed the pattern was that we were only sending 3 types of major medications. It was antidepressants, antipsychotics, like medication for the brain, right? It was like for mental health, right? We were sending out impotency medication, so medication for men to fuck, for people just to fuck, and sex change hormones. So just for changing your gender, and also Ozempic, so insulins, just to, and they were saying, the pharmacists were like, oh, they were arrogant pharmacists, and it was a very toxic workplace, very toxic environment. And so it was so interesting, the dynamic, the energetic dynamic, because all downstairs, I mean, I can talk about it in deep another time, but essentially the pharmacists were saying that Ozempic and insulin was for cancer, fighting cancer, but it was actually for rich people just to lose weight. So essentially, we were sending out insulin for people to lose weight, not the healthy way, medication for impotency medication, when really, in reality, impotency is actually caused by a compression of the spine, compressing the nerves here, which I had this problem too, and I fixed it myself from working on posture and proper breathing, and I explained that in my health videos. You can see there's a part 1 to 8. And essentially, the tadalafil or Viagra, essentially it makes you relax there, and it makes you essentially get hard, blood flow. But essentially it's a band-aid. It doesn't fix the problem, which is a compression of the spine and nerves. So essentially you have to find someone who can, like a scoliosis clinic. Essentially is that we can cure all these things naturally, and even the mental health is connected to the spine. It's all connected to our health. So our posture, how grounded we are, proper breathing, proper diet, isolating yourself from toxic, evil people and evil workplaces, getting the proper things, love, health, respect, friendship, just treat it like a human being and getting everything you need. That's what will help you fight all your depression, all mental health. Now, higher level schizophrenia, bipolar, that's spiritual things. That's a spiritual thing affecting the person, I think. Anyway, so now I'm going to talk to you about, after this experience, I realized that the medical industry, which I already knew was just bullshit. The big pharma is all bullshit. All the medications are derived from natural things that these corporations, they actually synthesize a fake, like they synthesize a pill, then they create a patent so that they can sell it. So they have ownership of this. And then this never fixes any problem. It's just a band-aid when the root problems can be fixed naturally. Then I moved and had a chance to work in the psychedelics, and there we sold a variety of things, but I'm going to tell you what they do. So essentially, psilocybin mushrooms is a natural tool that essentially, on low levels, it can fight anxiety and depression. But on higher levels, like a gram, essentially you're just gonna start tripping. Essentially, this is gonna be entry level, like the standard level that people go on, 1,000 milligrams a gram. But essentially, low levels would like be, I don't know, like 25 milligrams to 50, 12.5 milligrams if you're nervous. But essentially, those low levels are not gonna even feel perceptible. They're sub-perceptible. It's just gonna be, you're gonna have low anxiety, like more emotionally connecting with others. But essentially, if you do a macro trip, though, essentially you're gonna go deep into your mind and doing introspecting, and essentially you're gonna essentially break the veil between the spiritual realm, because this stuff is very spiritual. And essentially, entities, I like to say demons, will actually notice that you're vulnerable, and essentially this is when they're gonna come and start attacking you mentally. But essentially, you have to go through this attack, because after they fuck off, you start relieving a lot of trauma internally. And essentially, there's a lot of interesting philosophical thoughts that you can get on psychedelics. And I notice a pattern of monistic thinking, that we are all one, we are all God. And I disagree with that. I think man and God are separate. Now let's move on to LSD. LSD is like twice as long. Instead of 5 hours, it lasts 10 hours. And this is a very energetic drug. It feels like you feel, how shall I say? You feel very, it's like a buildup of energy. It's like a gradual buildup of excitement and energy deep inside. And you start wanting to do stuff, and you start getting a lot of energy, wanting to walk around. On low levels, you can be very creative. And students actually take low levels to get through their studies in university. And basically, and it actually expands the mind. Same with the mushrooms. It opens up different pathways. And essentially, you can learn things about reality, and also have different thought processes, and actually break different cycles, mental thought patterns. And essentially, on high levels of acid, you can our mind creates spider webs. Like, these are mental cords that things that we think of, our beliefs, whatever. Essentially, these patterns, LSD can break lysergic acid. What is it called? Lysergic acid. Who cares? Essentially, this stuff breaks mental. It makes it malleable, and essentially, our mind makes mental folds. And essentially, those mental folds affect folds in our body, so they create the fascia folds. So essentially, if you do like a combination of sound healing and these psychedelics, you can do a lot of therapeutic healing from it. Now, I have had a very powerful vision. I saw these massive pillars. They were shining multicolored, and they were translucent, and they were in front of me. And this is after I released a bunch of trauma, so I was kind of like crying and just trying to pick myself up. And I started seeing this translucent, colorful vision, and it was like a gateway. It looked like these massive pillars. It looked like ancient Hinduism architecture, and it started like turning, and it was like a door, like a gate, some kind of massive mechanism, like a gateway or doorway turning and shit. And I was like, holy fuck, what the hell is happening? And I was using a 222 acid tab, 222 microgram tab, and also a gram of blue meaning strain magic mushroom. And essentially, these things that I've done have helped unlock my mind. I feel like limitless right now. Now, MDMA. MDMA, basically, essentially from my experience, on itself, the more pure it is, the safer it is, and the less of a crash you'll have. And if you do use it, you do it every 3 months max, and you do use, you can take a supplement like 5-HTP after, that will revitalize your, what you were drained of during that, your serotonin. But I bounced back so fast, to be honest. Like, literally, I could just sob for a few hours the next day and I'm back. And some days I haven't sobbed, because I was so thinking about the experience that I had when I went dancing or whatever party I went to. And I haven't partied too often in my life, but the few times I went out, I went to like a rave and I did like a hippie flip, which is like a combination of MDMA, magic mushroom, and LSD. And essentially, it's very potent and powerful experience. But essentially, I recommend it's better to be in private areas instead of in places with massive amounts of energy. because it can be quite hectic, crazy. It can be really crazy. But essentially, MDMA, it makes you feel very euphoric, very like, and mushrooms can actually make you feel euphoric too. Actually, back to magic mushrooms, different strains do different things. Some of them are more physical, like feeling physical. Some of them are more emotional healing. Some of them are more spiritual. Some of them more like introspecting, mental thought, thinking. Some of them are a combination of all. Some of them are more visual. I think I said that. Physical. Anyway, so back to MDMA. So on its pure form, just on its own, it's very, the crystal slash powder, it's very, slash pill, whatever, it's very euphoric. You feel very euphoric. But essentially, if you do a combination of it with mushroom, it and LSD, essentially you essentially can feel a connection to higher unconditional love. Like you can tap into unconditional love, which we normally don't feel. And then once you feel that, and especially magic mushrooms, you can connect to source God, which I have, and essentially you'll feel unconditional love. And essentially you'll feel, wow, this is amazing, and you'll know what it is to feel this love, and then you'll be able to give it freely to people more often. But essentially, MDMA on the combination of LSD and magic mushrooms will, it's possible to have experiences where you feel pure unconditional love, and essentially can feel everyone's energy and your energy. Everyone's energy around you. And essentially, I've been at raves where I felt like I was completely at peace, and essentially I didn't want nothing from anyone, and essentially even now I'm like that now, but essentially I was just so affected by, I could feel physically the energy like flowing, and essentially I knew this person hated me, this person liked me, and I was just like able to just navigate so easily. I just kind of wish that it was on like that all the time. It would be so much easier, but then that's how people get addicted to that. Okay, now let's move on to, I don't even think we have time to finish the video. I'm gonna have to do a part 2. Okay, I think we're gonna do a part 2 now to explain peyote. I think I can quickly explain peyote because I haven't done too much peyote. So I've done a couple grams of peyote. I've done 3.5 grams another time, and then I've done 7 grams. And I have a 21 gram one set up for a future. But essentially what happens, it's very similar to LSD. You get, it's like a 12 hour, instead of 5 hours for mushrooms, 10 hours for acid, 12 hours for this mescaline, which is the chemical in the peyote, which is also in San Pedro plants. It's like a natural plant, just like mushrooms. It's just a natural plant that God designed to help heal yourself spiritually. Essentially, this will help you. Essentially, okay, it felt like acid, but it gave you the thought process of mushrooms. And essentially, lights got super bright. And essentially, it was like 3 times brighter than acid. And essentially, acid gives you visuals too a little bit, but the more you take, you get like a permanent tolerance. So you'll have to take more and more and more. But eventually, it's like once you learn what you need to do, you don't really need to do this stuff anymore. I find it's like the problem you had is over. And essentially, if you do a lot of acid at home, just be sure that, like, yeah, you just make sure you have a lot of tissues and and like you're near a washroom, and you have a lot of water and some snacks and tea and like a place to like lay down and even a bucket to throw up. Yeah. And then only the washroom, I guess. And then also like on peyote, it's like on low levels it's like acid, but on higher levels it's nothing like it. And I haven't only talked to people about it, but they said they've seen things like slow motion, they've released traumas, they've seen their ancestors, they've seen their past family members who died. It's a very spiritual experience that is recommended to be done in a shamanistic setting with people who know what they're doing, and especially near a campfire, I've heard. Okay, anyway, let's start with part 2, and that's going to be on dimethyltryptamine, otherwise known as DMT.